Coming to you live, it's In the Know with Mo. And now, here's your host, Mo Vella.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to In the Know with Mo. It's so good to have all of you with me. I took last week off. I had some conflicting business going on, and I missed all of you. So it's good to be back with you. Thank you for being with us. Again, thank you to my indomitable producer, Mark Grimaldi, the best producer of podcasts and radio shows in the world. I have the best. I'm really proud of my beloved Mark Grimaldi. And to my assistant, Dave Compton, who I could not do any of this without. And to Leslie Marshall, as always, my love, my admiration, my respect, and my gratitude to her for the chance to let this chubby, gay, bald, ugly Latino from Southern Texas have one chance. So we always start with the moment of truth. We all know that's spelled M-O-E-M-E-N-T. And this week's moment of truth has to do with the fact that I moved out to Los Angeles and West Hollywood. As many of you know, I've mentioned it a couple of weeks ago. But as part of this move, I'm finding myself going through some interesting transformations that I think probably all of you go through at different parts of your life. And so I find them to be moments of being held accountable. And so part of that this week just struck me today. I just finished going to my fitness trainer. And when I was at the training today, he said to me, I am going to bust your butt because I'm not allowing any of my clients to go on to season 2 of their television show with that belly. And it made me realize that today's moment of truth for me on my way home was about accountability. And so I want all of you to hold me accountable as I take this chance to make some changes in my life. And I'm not going to lose my belly over time for anybody else. I'm losing it for my health. And so today's moment of truth is let's do it for ourselves because we love ourselves, because each of us is worthy, because each of us should strive to be as healthy as we absolutely possibly can. But I want to make it clear, we don't do health, wellness, fitness, self-awareness. We don't do any of this for anybody else. We do it for our soul. So that's today's moment of truth. Do it for you. Don't do it so that someone else can like you, think you're beautiful, think you're hot. Come try living in West Hollywood as a single gay man. Let me just tell you something. It makes you question all of that every minute of every day. Okay, wow, what a guest. What a guest. Oh my God. This is amazing. Adam Matalon is my guest today. I know you're going to all just react the same way I did when I met Adam. There isn't one story about this man's life, and I'm not making this up. You'll hear it in just a few minutes. There isn't one thing about this guy that you just don't go, wow, how interesting, how fascinating, how inspiring, how motivational. So the founder, the CEO of Chatsby Films out here in Hollywood, highly respected, highly regarded in the entertainment industry globally, actor, director, producer, showrunner of Unicorn Hunters. Yes, he's the showrunner on our show, and also producing with me on Unicorn Hunters. But Adam, welcome to In the Know with Mo. It's a privilege to have you. It really is.
It is a fun, exciting privilege for me, Mo. So thank you so much.
You're such a sweet and wonderful soul. I want to go back, as we do here at our show, to the beginning. Everyone says, well, why don't you just talk about Chatsby Films the whole hour? I'm like, that's because you know what? There would be no Chatsby Films if we don't understand where this Adam Matalon came from, right? How did you even get to this point? So let's go back to the beginning. Where were you born? And tell us a little bit about your upbringing, your youth, your childhood, and what role did it play in forming you?
Well, I mean,
I know
like
it's
so many.
therapy. It's like therapy. Don't worry about it.
No, I love it. So I was born actually in Manhattan, which most people don't ever guess because they hear me and they think, oh, well, you've got this weird English transatlantic accent. So I was born in Manhattan. My parents met working together and were both in the same Broadway show. And they met working together in New York. Neither of them were from New York. And so I guess that happened, and like science, babies get made. So I was born in New York. I kind of grew up in a very sort of crazy bohemian environment, which I think for most outsiders probably seemed incredibly glamorous. And I will say, as a grown up, that as a child, there was nothing glamorous about it. It was kind of really terrible sometimes. But both my parents worked in the theater. They both had significant successes, and my mother was a big star at the time on Broadway and had won a Tony for a show. This was before I was born.
What was the show? What was the show?
The show was Irma la Douce. She was the original Irma in both on Broadway and in London. She'd originally was a
In the
Peter
West
Brook.
End?
Yes, Peter Brook, the director, had directed it. It was based on a French sort of play with music that was then adapted. She, won every award in London and then came to Broadway, recreated the role, and won the Tony. So I grew up between London and New York. As a little boy, we also lived in Spain, and I was 5 and 6 for a while. And then my parents had, an unfortunate and pretty acrimonious separation. And there were, my sister and then a brother. And we were, like so many kids, we were back and forth and used as pawns. And all of that, by the way, completely informs who I am. I mean,
Well, this is exactly why I ask people to go back, because it does, right? And it kind of like sets the stage and foundation, right, of who you were going to become. Did it make you, I mean, first of all, by the way, I want to make an observation. When you just said this, the word bohemian was the most perfect descriptor probably that I could have heard from you, right? I really got it at that moment when you said a bohemian environment, right? This theater world. And you know what I likened it to when you said it in my mind? The families that travel in carnivals or circuses. That
there was an absolute circus environment. I grew up without any friends my age. That was an
Yeah.
interesting thing. I because of my parents' separation, I think all of me and my siblings had to develop a really fierce self-reliance and
Yes.
resilience and
And
tenacity.
independence probably too.
Yeah, from a much younger age than
Mm.
I would wish on my own
Of any
children.
kids, yeah.
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 But absolutely. And, also had the benefit of growing up around, it wasn't till later in life I realized just some of the big stars that
Yeah.
my parents
Yeah.
knew and had
That were just
friends.
a
And
normal part of life, probably.
then you sort of, and I look back on those experiences of people I met as little boys, and I go, oh my God, that person was like a real person.
Well, I mean, how many people can say I am the son of a Tony Award winner? I mean, literally, think about it. It's
Well,
not,
there's a few.
there are a few, but it's not a you know, major manual of some kind that's this thick. It's not. I mean, there are only so many given out every year. So, I mean, it is a limited list. That's what an amazing world to come up in, if you will, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we all know that anybody who's been around theater people, right? What you and I have talked about, and I think this is a really good moment to bring it up. You and I, when the first time we met, when we hired you and the other producers to be our showrunner and our directors and our producers for Unicorn Hunters, you and I started to get to know each other, and we had many, many conversations. And one of them was around this, that me as a gay man, right? I brought this up to you and I said, my God, that means that from your youth, you were just around all these crazy ass gay people, right?
It was not until I got into television production that I started hanging out with straight males. I mean, seriously. Like I didn't have any really straight male friends until my sort of late,
what, Adam? It makes you very special because you're so comfortable in your skin. And then I know from the minute I met you, you've got the spirit of inclusion and this unconditional love. And that has to come from that. And unfortunately, on that note, I'm getting better. We're going to our first break. As you can tell, folks, don't go anywhere. This is only going to get more and more interesting. Stay with us.
I want to get back to seeing my grandbabies every Sunday and smothering them with big hugs and kisses.
I want to get back to football games with my boys.
I want to get back to feeling and touching, connecting with the people around me.
I want to get back to family dinners and my grandma's mac and cheese.
I want to get back to real grocery shopping, taking my time, walking down every aisle, smelling the tomatoes and melons, having a free sample or 2 or 3.
COVID-19 has changed how we live and how we feel. But now, there are vaccines. And they are the first step that let us get back to feeling optimistic about the days ahead of us. It's okay to have questions.
Is it safe?
Should I get it?
Should I wait?
Now, get the facts. Learn more at getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision when vaccines are available to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Hey, sis. Missed you this morning. Kim told me you weren't feeling well, so I'm just doing a self-care check.
Oh, thank you, friend.
How you doing?
Girl, listen, my energy was so low because I didn't eat breakfast when I got up, so I had to miss virtual yoga with y'all.
Trust me, I understand.
But I'm doing much better now that I've eaten, so I'm back on track.
Great. In that case, let's get some steps in tonight. I'll come over and we can walk around the lake.
Sounds good. Appreciate you being in my business, too. Now, let me get in yours. Did you check your blood pressure today?
I did that and my squats, okay?
Okay.
High blood pressure is not going to be my friend if I can help it. See you at 6?
Let's get it. See you then.
Now more than ever, it's important that we protect our hearts and the hearts of those we love. Check in on one another and be a part of a healthy blood pressure movement. Rally your squad to take the online pledge at releasethepressure.org. Brought to you by the Release the Pressure Coalition and the Ad Council.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1963. That was the day President John F. Kennedy signed the Equal Pay Act. The goal of the act was to end wage discrimination against women. It required equal pay for equal work. One of the leading advocates of the act was Esther Peterson. At the time, Esther was the highest-ranking woman in President Kennedy's administration. She headed the Women's Bureau for the Department of Labor. In 1981, President Ronald Reagan awarded Esther the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest civilian honor. She was recognized for a lifetime of tireless work for women, workers, and consumers, including her efforts on behalf of the Equal Pay Act. It certainly was an uphill battle to pass the legislation. Similar proposals had failed to make it through Congress for nearly 2 decades. Many business interests lined up in opposition. Finally, in 1963, there was enough momentum to pass the landmark legislation. At the signing, President Kennedy reflected on the significance of the measure, saying, "While much remains to be done to achieve full equality of economic opportunity, for the average woman worker earns only 60% of the average wage for men. This legislation is a significant step forward. Our economy today depends upon women in the labor force. 1 out of every 3 workers is a woman. Today, there are almost 25 million women employed, and their number is rising faster than the number of men in the labor force." The act had a profoundly positive impact for women workers. Yet today, that impact remains incomplete. Women still only make about 80% of the average wage for men. It is up to today's labor leaders to complete Esther's fight for true pay equality. Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com, like us on Facebook, and follow us on the Twitters at Labor History in 2.
Love on the Twitters.
Welcome back to In the Know with Mo. And it's so good to have all of you with me. Sorry, I just worked out about 30 minutes ago with my trainer, as I mentioned in the Moe-ment of Truth, and I still can't breathe. That just shows you how much I have to keep going. I was like, I couldn't catch my breath. Our guest this week is Adam Matalon. What an amazing guest to have. What a great conversation we're having. Let's pick it right back up, Adam. So I think you're a great example. Over the break, I was just thinking, what a beautiful example that first segment was of how we're products of our environment. And so for all the grief and strife and angst you might have gone through with your parents' acrimonious split, the positive and the beautiful is that you came out of all of that bohemian environment, in my opinion, this inclusive lover, this unconditional lover of life and people and humanity. And so, you know what an amazing example you are for all of us. So I want to go now to the next phase of your life, because I'm always fascinated with, I'm the son of an attorney, right? The nephew of a federal judge, the cousin and brother of an attorney. So I felt this immense kind of, not pressure, but certainly a kind of a encouragement to go into that, to get my law degree, which I ended up doing. So let's talk about that. So you're the son of a Tony Award winner and an actor dad, right, who are in the biz. And at what point did you say, I think this is me, right? Like I'm going into this, right? That's what you saw of your youth. When did you have that light bulb moment that this creativity had to be a part of your life?
You know, that's a really interesting question, and it's something that I contemplate often, you know, because we are all the sum of our parts, as we're talking about.
Yeah.
I think it was right there in front of me. You know, I forgot to also say that my uncle was a Broadway director.
Oh, Lord.
Meaning my father's brother, and I felt growing up like I did not get encouraged to pursue other interests. And I had a very distinct, specific interest in science. I was a really, really good math student. I mean, I was doing college math at like 14 and stuff like that. Even though my education was very non-traditional, because, you know, I would be tutored or we would travel. I was never in the same school for more than, you know, a couple of months. And there was a point where I really wanted to go study marine biology. And at like 16, 17, when I was already training in dancing and I was already taking singing classes and acting classes, you know, I had this dream that, well, maybe I should go, you know, join the Navy and apply to, you know, the Naval Academy. You know, how do I get the Navy to pay for me to become a marine biologist? And you know, and I think that was a real consideration for me, but there was not that support mechanism in my family to say,
go try it. Go
try it. And I really did have, at that time, you know, a sort of facility and talent for what I was pursuing. And so, you know, I went into the theater very young, starting around 17. I wanted to get away from my family, which was very difficult in the business. But I remember going to my first auditions as a young man and, you know, couldn't stand it. People behind the table say, oh, how's your dad? Or how's your mom? And, you know, and it was the same whether I was in New York or in London. Kind of people knew whose kids, you know, and so. But I loved it, and I think what I loved about it was the theater gives you a tribe of inclusivity, and in a weird way, me feeling like an outsider and me being an outsider because of this bohemian upbringing was somehow accepted.
And do you know what's interesting is when I use the analogy of the circus or the carnival, that's what I hear from friends of mine who come from families who've been in that environment too. It's the same thing. It's you have a community.
Yeah.
And we all, I think, seek a sense of community in where we go and everything we do, right? That's why we have Chinatown and Little Italy and the Irish sections of Boston, because people seek community, right? Latino neighborhoods, African American neighborhoods, people seek community with people who are like them, right?
Well, I think, when I'm almost embarrassed about how serious I was as a young man, 16, 17, 18, I was deadly serious about everything. I was, my standards were completely overly high. My expectations of myself were unreasonable. And I think that I had little sense of humor, which for somebody who now loves to laugh and loves to tease and joke, and I will say with more love in the world than I can ever express, that I really credit, I say to all the chorus boys around the world, thank you for teaching me how to laugh at myself, and make fun of me.
What a great segue, because I think we're about to shock the shishi out of everyone listening and watching. So what was your first Broadway show and how old were you? Okay, it may not be your first that I'm hinting at here, but you were in a huge show.
So I was in a huge show. I was still young teens. I was in, and it was not Broadway, but it was an important production. It was the 25th anniversary production of the West End production of West Side Story.
That's not even what I was hinting at, but go ahead.
Oh, what were you? All right.
No, keep going. I want to go through all of your shows.
And
how old were you when you were in that?
18.
And what role did you play?
I played action.
Really?
Yes.
So you were like,
I was a lot of that. Yeah, I was definitely a jet. If you scroll around long enough on the internet, you will actually find me doing Officer Krupke on the Royal Variety Show.
What?
From too many years ago. But I was, terrible child, and I had been so upset because I was training in New York at the time, and I remembered being too young to audition for the Broadway 25th anniversary, which had been at a couple of years earlier or whatever. Anyway, I was super lucky, and I got to work with, originals from the film and from the original Broadway cast, and obviously Jerome Robbins was still active and Leonard Bernstein.
Oh, God, what I can't even imagine.
So that was incredible. So that was my first big show. I always want to say that I first got my equity card in the States playing a pig in The Three Little Pigs in a children's theater company. So
really? Is that true?
That's true. And it's important that people realize, everybody starts somewhere. That was my first, in professional equity contract, was playing a pig.
So when we come, well, you know what? I don't even want to talk about pigs right now. I just came from my trainer. But here's the deal. When we come back from break, we're going to now move to Broadway. Then we want to hear about when was your first big show in the United States, and what do you consider your breakthrough moment here in the United States, right? And then of course we're going to talk more about your directing and your producing and all of these incredible things you've accomplished up until now. Of course, being the showrunner for the greatest new reality series in the history of the world, Unicorn.
In the history of the world.
We'll be back in just a few minutes with Adam Matalon. Stay with us.
Hey, Dad. How do airplanes fly? What's in this box? Can I touch this? Where does sand come from? Is this tree good for climbing? What happens if I mix these two things together? How are babies made? What does this thing do?
Kids are curious about everything, including guns. Talking to them about gun safety in your home is a good first step. But you can do more. Always keep your guns locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Storing your guns securely is the best way to prevent family fire, including unintentional shootings. For more information on safe gun storage and ways to keep your family safe, visit endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org.
What do we keep in the attic? What's this thing called? Can I ride my bike backwards?
Like I said, kids are curious. It's up to us to keep them safe. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
Right now, our country feels divided, but there's a place where people are coming together.
I gotta tell you, I was nervous to talk to someone so different than me.
Me too, but I'm glad we are.
Love Has No Labels and One Small Step are helping people with different political views, beliefs, and life experiences come together through conversation, and it feels good.
Wow, your story is so...
Interesting?
Yeah.
When people actually sit down, talk, and listen to one another, they can break down boundaries and connect as human beings. At lovehasnolabels.com/onesmallstep, you can listen to amazing, life-changing conversations and find simple tools to start a conversation of your own.
I know one thing. This conversation gives me hope.
It gives me a lot of hope.
At a recent congressional hearing on America's so-called labor shortage, mega banker Jamie Dimon of J.P. Morgan Chase offered this insight. People actually have a lot of money, and they don't particularly feel like going back to work. Jamie, most people are living paycheck to paycheck. And since COVID-19 hit, millions have lost their jobs, savings, and even homes. So they're not exactly lollygagging around the house counting their cash. Instead of listening to the uber-rich class ignorance of Dimon, who pocketed $35 million in pay last year, Congress ought to be listening to actual workers explain why they're not rushing back to the jobs being offered by restaurant chains and such. They would point out that there's no labor shortage, there's a wage shortage. More fundamentally, there's a fairness shortage. It was not lost on restaurant workers, for example, that while millions of them were jobless last year, their corporate CEOs were grabbing millions, buying yachts, and living large. Yet, more than half of laid-off restaurant workers couldn't even get unemployment benefits because their wages had been too low to qualify. Then there's the high risk of COVID exposure for restaurant employees, an appalling level of sexual harassment in their workplace, and demeaning treatment from abusive bosses and customers. No surprise, then, that more than half of employees said in a recent survey that they're not going back to those jobs. After all, even a dog knows the difference between being stumbled over and being kicked. To get the workers they need, corporate giants should try the free enterprise solution right at their fingertips. Raise pay, improve conditions, and show respect. Create a place where people want to work. This is Jim Hightower saying, for a straightforward view from workers themselves, go to the advocacy group onefairwage.site.
Hello, welcome back to In the Know with Mo. I'm Mo, and like your host. It's so good to have all of you with us this week. My guest is my friend, the showrunner of Unicorn Hunters, a show I'm so proud and to be a part of. Adam Matalon, the CEO and founder of Chatsby Films. So, Adam, let's pick it up right there. 25th anniversary show on the West End, West Side Story. Tell us a little bit. What's your Broadway experience? Did you come across the pond, as they say, and do anything here, or did you travel in a tour here in the U.S. or?
No, I did work over here quite a bit. But when I was working over here, I was doing more sort of straight theater. But in terms of New York, I worked at the Roundabout Theater. Actually, one of the things I will say that I'm proud of, and I believe that I am correct in saying that I'm the only actor to have appeared in the Fantastics, both in New York and in London.
Oh, wow.
And the Fantastics, as you know, was the longest running off-Broadway theater, show in history. And when I did it in there was a poster. They have like a museum in New York of various posters of productions. So in there's a poster of me in the London production and then in the New York. And so,
how cool is that?
But no, I worked over here, but I did, a lot of what I did was in London, and that was partly because I was very lucky. I was an actively working actor. I was busy all the time.
Which is considered success in the business, right?
Yeah, and I got, I was one of those people that never wanted to just do one thing. So great doing musicals, but I love to act, and I was lucky enough to, for instance, to do, a couple of new works. I did a new play at the Royal Court that launched, and I was able to do very interesting work. And similarly,
and touch on so many different genres and different formats, and it sounds like you were diverse.
I hate being pigeonholed more than anything else.
Yeah. That's awesome. And what an incredible gift from the universe that you got to do it in what you love. So let's keep that going, because I want to better understand Chatsby Films. And when did you make this? Well, it doesn't sound like you really made a transition from acting right to.
I did.
You did. Okay. So tell us about that, because I think that, listen, there are going to people listening and watching this podcast and listening to this radio show, like me, who always want to learn from others, right? And who I hear people's stories because I learn from them. And so it may not be that someone's transitioning from West End actor to director or producer. It may be you're transitioning from librarian to, a social media influencer, but whatever it is, it involves a transition. So I love hearing people's stories. So please tell us how that happened for you.
I will try to tell it as quickly as I can. So the last big show that I was in that people will have heard of was I was in the original production of Sunset Boulevard, the musical, with Patti LuPone and Kevin Anderson.
Well, that's what I was trying to allude to earlier, but you didn't even.
Oh. Well, I was in that, yeah.
That's like a gay man's dream. Hello, Sunset Boulevard.
And
Norma Desmond is
Norma Desmond.
Right, the name of
it was a wonderful cast, and I found myself not enjoying it. And that was and I remember the opening night. I remember taking the curtain call and thinking, I don't love this as much as I used to love this.
Oh, wow.
And I think it was to do with, just
burnout.
I don't know about burnout, but I became disillusioned with the way the industry worked and the nuances of that. And I also really had passions for other creativity. And I'd always wanted to, I'd assisted directors and choreographers and this and that, and I was writing already at that time. So I went on what ended up being a rather long, like 5-year period where I knew I wanted to transition to production. At first, I thought it was theater, to name drop, but I just happened to have, through familial connections, how the dearly and departed Hal Prince was very kind to me and tried to help me. Did I want to get into production in theater? And made some suggestions and introduced me to some people. And I realized that I didn't want to become a general manager or a Broadway producer, that wasn't just me. So I then got into television as an electrician, because that was the only way I knew how to get in.
See, I love every week on my show, because it's people that I love and adore and respect. And then every single week, my producer, Mark, will tell you, I go, what? At least once, because you were an electrician on a television show.
So I got hired through a friend who was the boyfriend of a dancer I knew. He was a gaffer. I got hired. They all liked me because I was different and made them laugh, and I could talk to the producers because, of course, I wasn't scared of talking to producers.
Right.
And I quickly became a best boy, and then started getting offered jobs as a gaffer myself, even though I really didn't have the skill sets, but I knew how to build a team and I knew how to hire.
Oh,
right?
How fascinating.
And I very quickly then became a DGA AD and stage manager.
So you're using acronyms that probably most of our audience don't know. What the
Assistant
hell is a
director.
gaffer?
A
What's a
gaffer is the guy in charge of the lighting department who works with the DP, who manages the design and the execution of the lighting design.
So DP is design producer?
No, DP is the director of photography.
Okay, thank you.
Or-
I love to make sure on our show we inform, right?
Yes,
and we
absolutely.
educate, because I just want everybody to know as much as we possibly can. So
and so I did that, but I knew that that was an incredible skill that I learned, and an incredible group of guys and gals that I got to meet and work with, many of whom are still dear friends, and many of whom are now running the lighting on every major Emmy-winning show we can talk about.
just out of curiosity, I don't want to make this about me,
Yeah.
but are any of those on our lighting team at Unicorn Hunters by some weird coincidence?
No, but Darren Langer, our lighting designer, knows all the guys and gals that I grew up in the business, because he was one of those guys too.
Such a small world, isn't it? This
So
is a very incestuous business.
Yeah. So he and I, for instance, as we started Unicorn Hunters, when we were talking about lighting, and I was saying, well, what about this? He goes, I can tell you used to be a lighting guy because you're talking my language.
Yeah.
You know,
and see, that's invaluable, I'm sure, as a showrunner or director, right? When you can speak the language of your technical people around you, they respect you.
It's so important, and it's something that I tell everybody who has aspirations to be a creative is learn your creative craft, but really learn your technical craft, because you live or die by your technical team.
Yeah. Wow. Let's repeat that, because that's what this show is all about. That was the lesson of the show, probably. So not only learn your creative craft, but learn your technical craft. And by the way, this applies every industry, every sector, whatever your choice is for your journey of life, right? But learn both the technical and the creative.
I think it's so important for people to develop an understanding of other people's craft.
I do too, Adam. And, I say it a little differently, but the same meaning. I always say, don't ask somebody to do something that you haven't or aren't willing to do yourself. Right?
I will empty the garbage on a set, even though I have a title of executive producer.
Exactly. And I don't mean to inject a personal story here, but I remember when I worked as a deputy chief of staff for a Texas senator, a member of the Texas Senate, who now today she's in Congress and an amazing woman. Anyway, I remember that the interns that year voted me Senate Staffer of the Year. And when they asked them, why did y'all pick him? And they said, because he'd get on the floor and staple with us. And it was a lesson at that age that I learned that I took with me the rest of my journey. So we're saying the exact same thing, and what a great message today, and what a great lesson for anybody listening or watching the show today. Don't ask somebody to do something you're not willing to do yourself. Go learn it, and they'll respect you. And the loyalty, right, Adam? The loyalty.
It's unfathomable.
Right?
You feel it.
Well, we are going into our final break, and then when we come back, I want to make the last segment a little bit about Unicorn Hunters, because I really want to hear your perspective, and I want to hear your thoughts on it, and I think our audience will want to hear also, what do you think about where it's headed and what can it do? And you've been working on so many different productions over the years. Where does it have any chance of success? So we'll talk about that when we come back in just a few minutes. Stay with us at In the Know with Mo.
What I know about courage, I learned from my adoptive mom. She said sometimes you just gotta hold on and know we'll get through this. Mom, we are so high up. Hold my hand.
No, you hold my hand.
Here we go.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more.
I learned patience from my adoptive dad. All he had to say was,
"Hey, you got this. Just breathe." Hey, we're pretty good.
Yeah.
Might have to start a band.
I got it.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more. This message is brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
COVID-19 has changed how we live and how we feel. We show up differently, worship differently, and have found new ways to express our love and support to family and friends. But now there are vaccines, and they are the first step that lets us get back into the things we miss most, like spreading the word without spreading concern, girls tripping instead of solo sipping, brunching instead of late night munching, and talking smack with a side of mac and cheese. It's okay to have questions about COVID-19 vaccines.
Should I get it?
Should I wait?
Is it safe?
Can I trust it?
What about pre-existing conditions?
Now get the facts. Visit getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision when COVID-19 vaccines are available to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Welcome to Code WAC, your podcast on America's broken healthcare system and how Medicare for All could help. I'm your host, Brenda Gazar. How is Healthcare for All California working to win a single-payer system in the state? Has the Medicare for All bill, known as CalCare, been derailed? To find out, we spoke to Ellen Carroll, the chair of Healthcare for All California. She's advocated for single-payer universal healthcare for 15 years and worked for a decade in San Francisco's Latinx community. Welcome to Code WAC, Ellen. So this is a really special moment for Medicare for All in California. Single-payer legislation was introduced recently in the state assembly, and there was a campaign to get Governor Newsom to work with the Biden administration to free federal funds for a state plan. What do you see is Healthcare for All's role at this historic moment?
The stated mission of Healthcare for All is to achieve universal single-payer healthcare in California. So how does HCA fulfill its mission in today's movement at this historic moment? I believe that we fulfill our mission by first recognizing what's needed in the movement, by understanding our potential as a statewide chapter-based advocacy organization, and by using our network and strengthening our network in order to build a much broader base of public support for the movement, a broader, more diverse, more active base. Now that's a tall order, and it's also what the movement needs.
Get the full Code WAC story on progressivevoices.com and on the PV app. Catch all our episodes by subscribing to Code WAC wherever you find your podcasts. This podcast is powered by Heal California, a nonprofit that uplifts the voices of those fighting for healthcare reform around the country. Until next time, stay healthy.
Welcome back to In the Know with Mo. I'm Mo Matalon, your host. My guest today is Adam Matalon. We are having an amazing discussion about not only his creative soul, his amazing upbringing, his bohemian youth, the son of a Tony Award winner, and now, of course, a very, very highly respected and regarded producer, director, filmmaker, and above all, the showrunner of the world's newest, hottest streaming reality show, Unicorn Hunters. So, Adam, before we get to Unicorn Hunters, I kind of wanted to just kind of transition there by saying, can you give us an example of the type of films that you're working on at Chatsby Films, for example? Because I know of one in particular that in the break you were just reminding me you're working on one about veterans. So is it safe to say that you seem to focus on positive, hopeful?
I think I focus on stories of redemption.
Ooh, interesting.
Which is the way but that has positivity. I I think, in recent times, I co-wrote, produced, and directed a short film called A Boy, a Man, and a Kite that qualified for the Academy Awards in 2020, which was a proof of concept for a much longer film based on a true story. I'm working on this feature documentary called In the Shadow of the Flag, and it is about a group of American military veterans who a couple of years ago got together with an LA-based dance company to develop a dance and movement piece that expresses their experiences as military members. And it's a very broad group of members, and they're not dancers, but they actually dance the piece. And I shot among the hundreds of hours of footage, we also shot a performance at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. It's an incredibly moving dance piece, but the film itself breaks through and tries to talk about the emotions of service, whether frontline combat or not, and how that affects life as they move into civilian life, and some of these really tough struggles that our military deal with.
How powerful and poignant it sounds. I can't wait. I have to say about you that you have so many beautiful traits as a human being that I just fell in love with. But one of them is your accent, because it has been on the set of Unicorn Hunters. I have to tell a little inside story here. It has been a source of tremendous humor at times because, of course, as we all know, Lance Bass from NSYNC fame, right, is now a very successful investor and businessman in his own right. And we have the privilege of him being not only my personal friend and little brother, but he's on our show, right, in the Circle of Money with me and you. And you just said dance, and with your accent, there is no word you can't say. It just sounds so mysterious and exotic and exciting, dance. And so on that note, it reminded me of why I love you on the set, because you say Lance instead of Lance, right? And so it's been a running joke of ours on the set of Unicorn Hunters, because Adam will speak to all of us on set. And what a segue, by the way. You notice what I'm doing here? Segue to talking about you as the showrunner. But anyway, Lance and dance, and oh my God, that both sounds magnificent. So right into Unicorn Hunters now. So what the hell is a showrunner? Because I'm telling you, the average person watching, like me, right, or listening, we don't know what a showrunner is. We see it in People magazine, but we don't know what the hell that is. What is a showrunner? How is that different than a director? How is that different from, is it part of an executive production? Is that where it falls in?
It is absolutely part of executive production. I mean, I think one of the interesting things is that you will never see showrunner on screen as a credit. My on-screen credit, like your on-screen credit, is we are both executive producers of the show. Right. But we all have different functions. And the showrunner is really a slang expression to run the show. And what does that mean? It means the overall oversight of how do we integrate the creative vision, the technical need, and bring all of that together. So I'm involved at Unicorn Hunters, in all the staffing decisions, how we disseminate information, both creatively, technically, and then just making sure that everything gets taken care of. I'm the person that says, are we spelling that right? Tell me about this thing. Where's the research? What's the definition of that or that? As you know, we have factoids come up on screen.
Yeah.
I'll be somebody who will say, hey, we need a factoid there.
And you do it so seamlessly and so magnificently. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. You, of course, for me personally at Unicorn Hunters, you made my dream come true. So, and here I go. I haven't cried on this show in a long time. That actually just made me tear up. But
Well,
you know, you and Craig and Chris, you made my dream come true. And you do it with such grace and with such seamlessness. And it's just magnificent to watch you guys and your craft. But you keep the trains running on time, basically, right? And it's every detail falls on you as the showrunner of the show. Now, I do want to share this a little behind the scenes, right? Because if you watch the show at unicornhunters.com, shameless plug, unicornhunters.com, watch the show. Episode 3 came out this week.
And it's a great episode, by the way.
It is.
I mean, they're all amazing, but that has a particularly poignant, moving moment that actually makes me tear up, and that's between you and the founder, which is a great example of how humanity can inject itself into a show that is really sort of about journalistic integrity, but there's
thank you for saying that. And I thought it was a beautiful episode as well. They've all been fantastic. And I just want to just a little behind the scenes. Adam Matalon, our guest today, is in our ear when we are producing, taping, and recording the show. So when we're on set, it's this guy right here who we have a little earpiece, just because I like people to know how this all happens, right? How does this all come to be? And this man right here, Adam Matalon, is in my ear saying, I really think you should consider asking about this. Or I think that you really look like crap and you need to smile. No, he doesn't say that. He doesn't say that. But Adam, I do want to kind of bring this all together in typical Moe-ment humor, because we did have an incident, you and I.
You're going to embarrass me now, aren't you? Go
it's
on.
Not an embarrassment. I think it actually fits right into the discussion, because as the showrunner, you have the power, and it is power. We are empowering the showrunner, right, with keeping us all in line. And on our show, as you know, there's 7 folks, including the co-founder of Apple, Steve Wozniak, and Lance Bass, and the former United States Treasurer, Rosie Rios. These are people that have all succeeded and accomplished great things on their journey of life. And this guy right here, Adam Matalon, has to keep the 7 of us in line, tell us when to be quiet, basically to shut up at times, stop it, stop cutting up, but
settle down.
He does that one. But my favorite one of all, Adam, and we're going to end the show with this because it's my favorite. It'll be in my book when I write my next book about the making of the show. When I thought in my little gay creative soul, I thought it would be really neat before we shot the first pilot season that I went to a little toy store. And I thought, won't it be really cool that my thing will be that at the end of each Future Unicorns presentation, I'm going to hand them a stuffed unicorn plush toy. And that was going to be my way of saying, I'm investing in you and I believe in you. And when I pulled out the first toy for the first unicorn on the first taping, Adam said, that's not going to work. That will not occur. And I was heartbroken, and I didn't forgive you, did I, for about 24 hours?
It was not my intention to crush your dreams, Mo.
I forgave you because you made the bigger dream come true. So I was willing to give up the stuffed plush toy unicorn. Adam Matalon, you are a gift to the world. You are a gift to me. You are a gift to Unicorn Hunters. You're an amazing human being, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart for spending this hour with us.
And Mo, you are so lovely, and you've been your passion and your availability to us on this journey has been just infectious, and so thank you. I mean, it really is. It's been a joy.
I love you. I love you. And listen to Mark Grimaldi, to Leslie Marshall, to Dave Compton. My heartfelt gratitude to all of you for watching and listening. I love you too. And please come back next week. We'll see you at In the Know with Mo. To my trainer, Johnny King, for holding me accountable. Thank you, Johnny, the best trainer you could find here in LA. Okay, everybody, have a beautiful week.